patriotic duty.
I know the country has grown weary of the fight. We need to remember, we're at war with the virus, not with one another.
Biden, who will forgo a large family gathering for Thanksgiving, acknowledged the 260,000 Americans who lost loved ones this year. Despite the CDC's strong recommendation that people not travel for the holiday, millions of Americans are choosing to ignore that and travel anyway. Barbara Sprent, NPR News.
President Trump has pardoned former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. That makes Flynn the second Trump associate convicted in the Russia probe to receive clemency. Trump commuted the sentence of his longtime confidant Roger Stone just days before Stone was to report to prison. A Department of Justice official tells NPR that the department was not consulted on the deal and only learned of it earlier today. The Manhattan District Attorney will appeal to New York's highest state court, a ruling dismissing the DA's case against former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort. NPR's Ryan Lucas has more on the latest move in the case.
The decision from Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance comes after a New York appeals court last month upheld a ruling dismissing the case against Manafort. The former Trump campaign chairman was indicted on state fraud charges in 2019. His attorneys argue that the case violates a state double jeopardy law, since Manafort had already been tried and convicted at the federal level for similar crimes. Manafort is currently serving his more than 7-year federal sentence in home confinement due to the coronavirus pandemic. President Trump could pardon Manafort before Trump leaves office. That makes the state case against Manafort of particular note, since Trump's pardon power does not cover state crimes. Ryan Lucas, NPR News, Washington.
In the past 5 years, Canada has turned away more than 4,400 asylum seekers trying to enter the country from the U.S. As Dan Karpenchuk reports, hundreds of people made the attempt this year, even during the height of the initial wave of the coronavirus pandemic.
Opposition parliamentarian Jenny Kwan says nearly half of those trying to enter Canada made the trek in the year after Donald Trump became president. In 2016, there were more than 740, but in 2017, that number soared to nearly 2,000. Kwan blames the Trump administration's policies to detain and deport asylum seekers. She's also critical that Ottawa didn't hesitate to turn them away during the pandemic.
That's Dan Karpenchuk reporting. In the final day of trading before the holiday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed down 173 points to finish the day at 29,872. This is NPR.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include American Jewish World Service, supporting human rights advocates worldwide as they respond to COVID-19 and defend democracies. Learn more at ajws.org, and Americans for the Arts.
This is CPR News. I'm Joanne Allen. Hospitals in Colorado are facing problems as staff become sick with coronavirus. CPR's Andrea Dukakis reports.
Hospitals in the state have faced staffing shortages throughout the pandemic. Many have lost workers to higher paying jobs elsewhere. Now the Colorado Hospital Association's Julie Lomborg says as many as 2,000 hospital workers in the state either have the virus or have been exposed to it.
As they've gone about their daily lives, going to the grocery store, picking their kids up at school, they've gotten sick, much more so than in the spring, and or they've been exposed.
The CDC is considering reducing the recommended time people should quarantine if they're exposed. The Hospital Association wants to see that change and says it would help keep them staffed and serve more patients. Andrea Dukakis, CPR News.
Denver Mayor Michael Hancock boarded a plane this morning after advising residents against traveling ahead of Thanksgiving. Here's Denverite's Anna Campbell.
A spokesperson for his office said the mayor was flying to Houston to spend time with his wife and daughter in Mississippi, instead of having the pair travel back to Denver for the holiday. Denver recently imposed harsher restrictions to stop the rise of COVID-19 cases in the city. Hancock spokesperson Mike Strout said the mayor will follow all necessary health and safety guidance and will go into quarantine upon his return. I'm Anna Campbell, Denverite.
Here at this hour across Colorado, 42 in Denver, 49 in Colorado Springs, 48 in Grand Junction. This is CPR News.
Support comes from North Star Investment Advisors, providing investment advice to individuals and families for more than 2 decades. Learn about North Star's commitment to helping clients live off their money at northstarinvest.com.
Support for CPR comes from Tribe Alpha, helping businesses adapt to the pandemic landscape through e-commerce support. hosting a holiday e-commerce webinar on December 3rd. Registration at tribealpha.com.
This is All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Mary Louise Kelly.
And I'm Ari Shapiro. Renee Allen is a law professor in Brooklyn, and she and her mother have something in common.
My mother is in her late 50s. She is still paying off her student loans and likely could be for the rest of her life.